tonight. An urgent note from a fire inspector shows bursting hospitals in Regina are violating the fire code and putting patients and staff at risk. Also, how the warm weather is affecting ice thickness, leaving some northern communities in limbo. Plus, a potential brown Christmas is not dampening this couple's holiday spirit. We take you to Swift Current to find out why.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, December 20th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. Regina fire inspector is sounding the alarm about unsafe conditions inside overcrowded hospital. Patients are being treated in hallways, and the fire inspector says that has to stop. As Tyreek Reed reports, the warning was made public through leaked memos.
This is hallway healthcare in Saskatchewan. Now so crowded in some cases inside Regina's two hospitals that the city's fire inspector is warning it's a fire hazard. That's inside a leaked memo obtained by the Saskatchewan NDP.
The memo warns the Sask Party government that beds crowding the hallways in both Regina Pasqua Hospital and Regina General Hospital are resulting in, quote, serious fire code violations.
One email shows a senior SHA official saying the health authority has received a shot across the bow from the Regina fire inspector. In another, the Regina fire inspector urges the authority to follow the National Fire Code by keeping hallways clear. He says, quote, we cannot look the other way when there are serious fire code violations that is putting your patients and staff at risk within these vulnerable facilities.
When they get very busy, as the hallways can get crowded with folks in the hallways and stretchers and other things. And that becomes in a fire, you need to be able to evacuate, move people quickly, and that just starts to congest.
This isn't the first time crowded hospitals have created a fire risk. Last month, the SHA released an action plan to address overcrowding in Saskatoon hospitals, and now confirmed in an email to CBC News that it will do the same in Regina on Thursday.
There isn't confidence among healthcare workers at this point that that plan is robust enough to make significant change, that it's going to drastically move the dial in terms of how things are going. So we need a comprehensive plan.
The internal emails reveal the SHA is exploring temporary measures to satisfy the fire departments. It's considering keeping patients in ambulances until emergency room beds are available. But nurses say this will lead to more problems.
This isn't a solution, because what's going to happen then is that we will have ambulances backed up 12, 13, 14, 15 deep for how many hours?
The fire inspector has given the SHA 2 weeks to resolve the problem. Tyreek Reed, CBC News, Regina.
2 people are dead after a house fire early this morning just east of the General Hospital in Regina. It happened on the 2100 block of Winnipeg Street, and when crews arrived, they found flames and smoke coming out of the 2-story house. Later, discovering 2 people on the 2nd floor who had died.
We see ebbs and flows with fires throughout the year. Obviously in the winter season, the colder season, we see an uptick of fires just with heating and different things that folks will do at this time of year.
Regina police are working with Regina Fire and the Coroner Service on the investigation. This is the 2nd deadly house fire in the city this month. The other, which also killed 2 people, happened in North Central on Ray Street. The fire chief says every fire is a tragedy, but they happen more frequently in the winter. Officials are encouraging people to have smoke detectors installed in their homes. Saskatchewan's 2 largest cities have had exciting and stressful moments this year. No one knows that better than the Saskatoon and Regina mayors. We sat down with Charlie Clark and Sandra Masters for a look back.
The populations of Regina and Saskatoon are growing. Saskatoon by more than 7.5% from 2016 to 2021, and Regina by more than 5%. Leadership in both cities are trying to keep up. In Saskatoon, the city has been considering a downtown arena to replace an aging SaskTel Center. The alternative, renovate the existing space.
It's not a choice between spending money on one thing and not having to spend money on anything. It's going to cost us either way. I'd rather build and plan for something that's going to help bring that downtown vibrancy.
In Regina, Mayor Sandra Masters estimates the Brandt Centre, Library and Aquatic Centre are nearing or more than a half-century old. And she's frustrated that funding plans weren't laid out years ago to replace them. It's issues like that that make population growth a double-edged sword.
Cities simply don't have enough money. You've heard me say it. It's 8 to 9 cents of every tax dollar collected in this country goes to municipalities, but we have 60% of the infrastructure that exists within municipalities, and so you can't actually ever catch up.
Part of Regina's assets are managed through REAL, Regina Exhibition Association Limited, but there are problems there with debt and money management. It did control Tourism Regina too, though not anymore, and REAL's volunteer board has been replaced.
So what do you make of how that has played out?
Oh, I think it's been pretty brutal, to be honest. And it's bananas what happened to the board of directors. I think it's incredibly disrespectful. Those volunteers, and some of them I had worked with on the board of directors, those volunteers give hundreds of hours of their time. They're smart people, they're respected business people. And I think there is a level of disrespect shown there which saddens and frankly embarrasses me.
In 2023, both cities struggled with homelessness. Tent encampments were erected and dismantled in Regina, including at City Hall. And in Saskatoon, the Lighthouse supported living property stopped offering emergency shelter beds after the province stopped funding them in May. A recent report revealed a lack of shelters in Saskatoon meant that people with complex needs were staying in police cells. Mayor Charlie Clark wishes the city had a more cohesive system to care for people who are homeless and facing addictions and mental health issues.
It's been not something I'm proud of, that in some ways a lot of those challenges have become harder, and the loss of families, families losing people to overdose, and some of the impacts of those things on families. And we are seeing it.
And in 2024, both cities will host municipal elections. So we asked them about that.
And the final question, I think you can probably guess what this one is.
Oh, it's going to be, are you going to run again?
Yes. Yes.
I have a 4-year mandate, so it seems I don't want to be distracted by looking too far out.
There's lots to consider, including with my family and so on, so yeah, I haven't made a final call, but I'm hearing rumors both directions, and it really comes down to a chance to talk to my family.
But mayors have a lot to get through before their respective municipal elections. Those are scheduled for November 13th, 2024. Dane Patterson, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatoon City Council has voted in favor of making their city more cyclist-friendly. With a 6-5 vote, Council is giving the green light to improving the infrastructure for walking and cycling on Avenue C. The project will be broken down into 3 phases, and development could include things like protected bike lanes, curb extensions, and shared pathways. But the plan is not without detractors, especially for Phase 3 of the plan between 38th Street and 45th Street.
Safety, cost, and impact to business. Firstly, with safety concerns, each year, Avenue C and Circle Drive is traditionally among the top 5 intersections in Saskatoon for vehicle collisions. Often leading the way, 3 times out of the past 5 years, it is the runaway winner for the most treacherous intersection in Saskatoon.
Moen also criticized the total projected cost of about $8.8 million. He says many members from the business community are opposed to the creation of a bike lane along Avenue C. The decision made today is only the first step. It will be followed by more debate and discussion before anything is finalized. The probable brown Christmas with the ongoing balmy winter conditions come at a price for some Saskatchewan residents. It's leaving northern Saskatchewan communities that depend on ice roads in limbo. Pratush Jayal reports.
It's concerning right now.
On Anne Robilart's Christmas list is ice that's 20 to 30 inches thick so that ice roads that serve Hatchet Lake can operate. Right now, the ice is just 8 inches. The province says ice roads typically become operational in January, but with the warm start to winter, that is in jeopardy.
Now, if it delays, it's going to throw everything off as to the plan of resupply. We have fuel, we have propane, we have housing materials to come in, And then the band had purchased 10 units of trailers that needs to come in.
Robillard says they have enough fuel to last them until mid-February. But if the ice roads don't form by then, they could run out of fuel.
The daily consumption is, it varies during the year, but the daily is about, I want to say, 22 to 3,000 liters per day.
In Fond du Lac, the First Nation there is in a similar boat. Right now, the water is open in front of Fond du Lac in the channel.
The way it looks like it's going to be a really tough year to have any ice roads. We live in an isolated community, and the ice road is the only time that we are able to drive out of our community. And a lot of people bring in their own supplies.
It's kind of a struggle, right? So there's 3 communities up there that play pretty good, Hatchet Lake, Black Lake, and Fond du Lac. So we have to wait for an ice road to be made to go across to play the other communities.
Fern says the last resort will be to fly in fuel and supplies, but that comes at a significant cost.
For one flight with 10 barrels, 10 barrels is about 203 liters per barrel. That they were flown in, that cost us about $24,000.
If the warm weather continues, it will make for a short ice road season. Typically, ice roads close for the season on March 31st or until weather allows. In a time of inflation, communities are hopeful that they do not have to rely on the expensive flights. Pritish Dayal, CBC News, Saskatoon.
A significant opportunity for a woman from Regina. Michaela Montana is now the first ever full-time Indigenous etalk host. The show covers daily gossip and celebrity news in Canada and abroad. Montana says she's been working hard for 5 years to reach this goal. Although she lives in Regina, Montana is from Frog Lake First Nation in Alberta. The 28-year-old originally got her start in acting and modeling, and it was after her first television gig with APTN on a show called The Other Side that she realized how much she loved hosting. Up until now, she'd been working part-time for etalk as a host and producer.
The real work starts now. The real work for me is, I'm here, I'm in this position to open the door and keep the door open for more people to come in after me. So there is a bit of a pressure to make sure that I'm not the last.
Montana won a Canadian Screen Award earlier this year for Best Variety or Entertainment Special for an etalk segment that she co-produced and co-hosted called Impact and Influence, a Truth and Reconciliation Day special. Montana will make the move from Regina to Toronto in January for her new role. It was a pretty gray, gloomy, and very windy day in the Queen City today. If you could escape the wind, temperatures were pretty comfortable. If you were getting blasted by the gusts, it was very much the opposite. Tomorrow is the first day of winter. We'll see if winter is going to, winter. Ethan will have your forecast after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. A significant and maybe a little sad announcement was made at the Royal Saskatchewan Museum staff Christmas party this year. Megamunch is officially retiring early next year. The half-sized robotic Tyrannosaurus Rex named Megamunch, who greets visitors with a mighty roar, will retire in late February of 2024. For 37 years, he's been an ambassador for the museum and unintentionally terrifying children. When he's done roaring, he and his display will be taken to the museum's warehouse for safekeeping and kept as part of the collection. Over the next couple of months, the RSM is hosting a bunch of events to wish him well in his retirement.
This weather update is brought to you by Crestview Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, proud member of the Capital Automotive Group.
And our weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. There's a tiny piece of nostalgia with Megamunch for me.
Yep.
And I'm a little sad that he's not going to be there, but I also revert back to being a child and clinging to the wall because I was terrified of what is actually a pretty small dinosaur.
Yeah, you know, it did freak a lot of people out. When I would go to, even me, it's a little loud, but you know, good for Megamunch, and hard to believe he had a career for 60 to 100 million years before he was at the museum as well. You know, he's put in a lot of time, so good for him.
Overdue, I guess.
Exactly, he's really earned this one. Well, forecast today, well, it might feel like 60 to 100 million years ago when you consider the weather. It was a lot warmer back then, but maybe it was a little bit windier too, because we did have quite a windy day through the province today. Gusts near 60 in Regina and Yorkton. Those have since come down though as we take a look at them currently. Also a warm one today. You see we still have quite a contrast in temperatures, still cold with high pressure in place in the far north. Southwestern Saskatchewan though taking in some, basking in some really warm weather today. Maple Creek hitting 15 degrees. That is the warmest December 20th in at least 30 years that I could find anyway, maybe even longer than that, possibly a record there. A lot of us in the southern part of the province getting above freezing today, and a little cooler in central parts of the province. Now, wind as we go into tomorrow, we were talking about that earlier, looks to be dying down. We have high pressure off to the east, which is moving out. Low pressure system in Alberta moving out as well. That's what's been causing those gusts to pick up. So next couple of days look not too bad. For the northern Saskatchewan, the last of the snow is moving out for you, except for communities right along the northern border around Stony Rapids, a bit of snow moving through tonight. But for a lot of us through tomorrow, this model's showing a lot of cloud cover here, but I think we will actually get some clearing in both Regina and Saskatoon as we head through the next couple of days. We're talking maybe another 5 centimeters with snow moving through the Stony Rapids area tonight. The second round of snow, though, going to produce most of that in far northern, or the Northwest Territories, I should say. We talked earlier about how ice roads are a problem in the far north. Well, snow is not a problem in Stony Rapids. Today on the ground, you have about 32 to 57 centimeters. It's a bit of a range. The average for this time of year is around 34 centimeters on the ground, but elsewhere, yeah, completely different story. La Ronge, you have about 8 to 12 centimeters on the ground right now. Average for December is about 25 centimeters. And then, of course, Regina and Saskatoon, barely anything on the ground. This time last year, you saw about anywhere between about 15 and 25 centimeters of snowpack, so quite a bit different. Now, taking a look at the forecast, there is not a single snowflake on there for Regina. In fact, we're just going to continue to see that warmth move eastward to us over the next couple of days. Winter arrives at 9:30 tomorrow night and will get as low as about -6 or so to get there. Saturday, Sunday, looking pretty nice for the weekend leading up to Christmas. For Saskatoon, same thing. How about a high around freezing tomorrow? Lots of sunshine for these next few days as well. Maybe a little bit breezy Christmas Day, but that's about all the excitement you will have, Sam. Pretty boring looking forecast.
It's so weird.
It is.
It is just, I don't know how else to phrase it. It is really weird that it is this warm and we're also talking about Christmas and Santa.
Yeah, and it just never seems to end.
No, well, thanks for this.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, this is just too cute. The Berlin airport has found a different approach to help people cope with the strain of holiday travel. Passengers are delighted to meet these furry four-legged friends, tails wagging, looking for a treat or maybe a cuddle. The pups all belong to a local dog association that arranges airport visits during peak travel times. We'll be back after the break. With Ottawa's new plan to accelerate the use of electric vehicles, there's a new concern about a desperate lack of charging stations. It's expected Canada will need nearly 500,000 individual public charging ports to meet eventual demand. Right now, there are just 25,000. Katie Nicholson has more.
When Claude Michon needs to juice up his EV, he has to drive it to this public charging station.
Park the car, charge it, and walk home, about a 15-minute walk from here, and then walk back the next morning, pick the car up fully charged.
There's nowhere to charge it in his condo building, and the parking lot next to his place doesn't have enough power for even one charging station. Retrofitting condos and parking lots with EV chargers isn't cheap, anywhere from hundreds of dollars to thousands if the transformers that feed the building need to be upgraded.
The cost is dramatically lower if you do it during the build as opposed to a retrofit.
At the University of Toronto, Olivier Trescas is part of a research team developing new EV charging technology. He says it's best that developers build for the future.
A good compromise is just to have the rough-in, so that is to have the power connection from the panel to the parking spot, and then when the time comes, you can actually install the charger and plug it into that receptacle.
Across the country, there's a mishmash of incentives and regulations for new builds to include varying numbers of EV charging stations. While federally, the government's trying to change the electrical code to make new residential buildings EV ready.
Some condos that are being developed right now that aren't actually putting in 100%. They're doing just, the minimum.
But at least one Toronto developer is going all in on a net zero future.
We will have 4 levels of underground parking, and every one of those spaces will have EV chargers.
It costs an extra $10 to $12 million, but she believes it's worth it.
It's a win-win for the environment. It also is, entices people that purchase a unit here to buy an EV vehicle.
A feature that really would have helped Claude Michon out.
That would be an excellent idea, yes.
And saved him all these trips back and forth. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Toronto.
And Ethan's back with one last look at your weather.
I want to be where Katie is, where they had no snow on the ground and oh wait, that's here. It's going to be -3 at 8 a.m. tomorrow in Regina. We'll continue to see those nice conditions through the day. -3, light winds for Regina as we head into the afternoon. We'll keep the sunshine around just above freezing or so. And again, not really expecting the winds to pick up. Much different scenario than what we saw today. In Saskatoon, -8 tomorrow in the morning, but by the afternoon, you'll be a little bit chillier with a little more cloud cover. Now, we talk about how warm it's been. It's so warm, you can wash your car if you're Martin out in Vanguard. And yes, that is the hose connected to the house that he's using as well. Probably a few more days where you could do that, Sam.
Yeah, but in the wind today, that would have been dangerous.
Would have been blown back at you.
Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
Well, it might not be a white Christmas for everyone in Saskatchewan this year, but that is not putting a damper on a Swift Current couple's holiday spirit. Jessica and Justin Perot go all out with their decorations and tell us why.
This started out with one string of lights on our east trough. 4 years ago, we kind of took the leap and said we want to do something a little bit on the crazy side. And my husband and my father-in-law built this completely out of recycled parts. It's a conveyor belt moving presents, kind of round and round. We kind of start brainstorming ideas all year round. So this year, Justin, my husband, really wanted to do the conveyor belt with presents, Santa's workshop, and then we have a cutout with gingerbread people so people can take pictures. The passion is more so with my husband. My family did a big Christmas, but no decorations like my husband. He's the inspiration. I think he's most proud of Santa's workshop this year, definitely. I think we just want to go bigger and better each year. It is absolutely heartwarming when you hear kids in vehicles going down the street and them going, wow, cool.
Something for us to aspire to, I suppose. That is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can head to our website, subscribe to our YouTube channel, or download the CBC News app. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.